Before I get to the review, I need to just get something out of the way. If you want to just skip to the review, skip to this time code. So my last video that's on YouTube is my review of Begotten, and I was going to follow it up like I did with Kill List with an analysis video. Unfortunately, I've tried twice to upload it to YouTube, and both times it's been taken down because it has violent or graphic content in it. I think I know which scenes they're talking about, so I tried to censor it the second time around. I blurred out all the violent content, and it was immediately removed when I uploaded it again. So I think, I don't know what's going on there. Basically, I've appealed to YouTube to basically say, how can I upload this video without it being taken down or me getting a strike? Luckily, I haven't had a strike or anything yet. That's kind of the situation with that. I don't know if that'll ever go on YouTube, but if it does, I might have to really rejig it and, you know, work around all the stuff and completely change the video content that's in it to actually get it on YouTube. But for now, I'm going to do a review of Parasite, which I've just watched about 2 or 3 hours ago. I don't have much history with Asian cinema. I've not really watched many Asian movies. Mainly I'm talking about Chinese, Japanese or Korean movies. I feel like the style is maybe a little bit melodramatic and kind of overacting. I've seen a couple of Park Chan-wook films, and this is the second Bong Joon-ho film that I've seen. I do have a notepad because I've got them written down, but some examples of Asian films that I have seen include, and these are Japanese and Chinese as well as Korean, Tetsuo 1 and 2, really great, really unique, but they don't really rely much on acting and kind of drama. They're more abstract and sort of David Lynch style. Audition is very performance driven and dramatic, and I really like Audition. I've only watched it once, but I really liked it. There's also the martial arts movies, the wuxia films like Hero and Crouching Tiger. I'm fine with them from like a performance perspective and kind of a filmic perspective. It's more the narratives that I'm not too keen on, specifically with Crouching Tiger, but I do like movies like that. I think they can be quite fun. However, there are also Asian films that I've seen that I didn't like. I found them either really boring, for example, Pulse and Ringu. I think they're just really boring and like nothing happens. They're very detective-y. I've also seen Train to Busan, which I wasn't particularly keen on. Again, I thought it was very melodramatic and over the top. And I also saw, speaking of Bong Joon-ho, I saw Snowpiercer, and I was actually a little bit disappointed with Snowpiercer. I found the plot to be very careless. They seem to introduce a lot of characters, make you care about them, and then just kill them all off in the last 5 minutes. I get that that's intentional. I'm not saying they did that accidentally. You know, be so flippant with the fate of humanity. I thought that was a little bit of a strange tone for the movie to sort of take. Parasite is probably the first Asian movie I've watched that I've really genuinely and thoroughly enjoyed all the way through from start to finish. But I really enjoyed this movie, and I would probably consider it something of a favourite of mine, like a new favourite. I'll have to watch it again to know for sure, but I really enjoyed it. One of the best things about the movie that it has going for it is the cinematography and kind of the look of it. It has this incredibly clean sort of look to everything. Even some of the cruder and more dirty and kind of miserable looking scenes in sort of the poorer areas of the city where the Kim family lives, there's just something about the look of them that's really compelling. When you compare the area where the Kim family live to the area where the well-off, rich Park family live, it's amazing how beautiful those two places can look, and yet the Park family's place can still feel really sort of almost too clean and too sterile when compared with the Kim family's neighbourhood, which feels very lively and sort of full of life. There are lots of really wide open and nice shots of the city, and sort of there's lots of layers to the town where there's like steps down and more steps and more steps, and there's loads of hills and things, and it just looks really nice. And I've seen a lot of people analyse sort of the cinematography and sort of the shapes and angles. There's a glass like a window onto the lawn outside, and it looks like a cinema screen. It's like a giant, long, rectangular screen. The story is essentially that you've got this poor family, or I wouldn't even call them working class because they don't really have jobs. They're kind of in a situation where they have no money. They've got 2 or 3 toilets in the same room. Just their house is a mess. It's a sub-basement, I think they call it, or a half-basement. And they find a way to worm their way into this rich family's life. So you've got the Kim family who are poor, and you've got this rich family, the Parks, who are very well off. They have a really nice house and nice sort of calm family lifestyle. And essentially the story of this movie is the Kim family, one by one, worming their way into the lives of the Park family as just kind of workers around the house. And as the storyline develops, it's essentially just how this situation escalates, how we learn a little bit more about maybe not the Park family, but something about their house, and how the characters start to unravel as the pressure begins to mount because they're stuck in this situation and they're trying to hide the fact that that the Kims are actually a family. The Parks don't realise that they're a family, they think they're all just friends of friends of friends of one another. So in a way, it's kind of like a horror movie premise, and there are certain scenes in the movie that definitely feel horror inspired. One particular sequence reminded me of Audition or Don't Breathe. I saw this movie described as a black comedy rather than just a drama, and that definitely shows there's something kind of goofy about the characters and what's happening, and there's a lot of scenes that made me chuckle while I was watching it. I watched a movie called I'm a Cyborg, and it's a Park Chan-wook film, and it was so ridiculously quirky and over the top that I couldn't watch it, I couldn't take it seriously. I understand it's a different style of cinema and it's a different language, so there's going to be some kind of cultural barrier there. But Parasite didn't feel like it had a barrier. I don't want to devalue it as a piece of Korean cinema by saying that it feels very Western. It just felt more accessible to me as a viewer of predominantly Western movies, and I think I appreciated that about it, I suppose. It meant that I could actually really enjoy it and sort of sink my teeth into it as a film, rather than being put off by the style and the tone. Despite being a film about rich and poor people, it didn't actually feel preachy whatsoever. It's easy to hear about a film like this and assume that it's going to be about how the rich are evil and the poor are, stepped on and kind of ignored. And yeah, those themes are definitely there, those ideas, but they're not. The director and writer are not trying to inform the audience on how they should feel. The rich family do a lot of good things and they're generally very nice people, but they have a lifestyle that is sort of disregarding the lower class and the people who aren't as well off as them and not as fortunate. And then the poor Kim family are down on the luck and you feel sorry for them, but as the movie goes on you start to realise that they are, hence the title, sort of like parasites leeching off this family who are quite well off and content and happy. It's not like it's a preachy film one way or the other. It's not telling you to side with either of the characters. You can side with both of the families and see both of their perspectives and feel sorry for both of them and still condemn some of the things they do and agree with some of the other things they do. It also helps that the performances in this movie are really quite good and everyone felt very compelling. Every single member of each of the two families was likeable in some way. I liked how clever and sort of manipulative the Kims were. I kind of admired that side of them, but I liked how pleasant and innocent the Parks were. This has been a little bit of a controversial movie last year because it won a ton of awards. Significantly, it won 4 Oscars. I've got my notepad again. Specifically, it won the Best International Film Award, the Best Original Screenplay Award, it won the award for Best Director, and the award for Best Picture. A lot of people decided that this was inappropriate because this is a Korean film and there are specifically categories for foreign films. The problem is that I think the Oscars, and I think a lot of people think the Oscars, should be acknowledging films from everywhere. I mean, of the films that I've actually seen that were on the lists, it beat Knives Out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 1917 for Best Original Screenplay. It beat Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 1917 and Joker for Best Director. And it beat those last 3 as well as Jojo Rabbit for Best Picture. Do I think it's the best film of the year? I don't know because I haven't seen every film of last year, but of the films I have seen, I would say this, 1917 and Joker are 3 of my favourites of last year that I actually saw. I wasn't particularly keen on Knives Out and Jojo Rabbit, I'm not going to go into that here, but essentially I really liked 1917 and Joker. I think I might like them more than Parasite. I've watched both of them since I saw them the first time, and I appreciated them both more the second time around, particularly 1917, but Joker is also brilliant. Parasite is also great and I really admire it, however I think maybe I gravitate towards a certain type of movie more. 1917 is action-packed and it's a war movie and it's very emotionally driven. And then you've got Joker, which is sort of like a psychological thriller that also builds on a pre-established comic book character that I particularly liked in previous movies like The Dark Knight. So it's all down to personal preference. Objectively, I don't know which would be the best film. 1917, from a technical perspective, would be my favourite film of the year because it had all these explosions, it had these perfectly timed shots. Performance-wise, though, I really liked Joker. I thought Joaquin Phoenix was fantastic in that movie. Parasite, on the other hand, is an ensemble drama comedy, and it has a lot of great cinematography that I really enjoyed, but also some good performances and a really tight script that's clearly been thought out and considered. And on top of that, it addresses some social issues without feeling preachy. Comparatively speaking, I would say Joker does address some worthy social issues, but it feels a little bit juvenile and it also feels like it's trying to tell the audience something that they already know, as though they've never heard it before. However, I am glad a Korean movie like this actually got the chance to make some waves with the Oscars, piss a bunch of people off, and actually make people reconsider what the Oscars should be. I think it's good that movies like that end up winning awards, and I'm absolutely glad it won Best Picture, just on principle of what it is. It's a really great movie anyway, but on top of that, I'm glad it actually won an award that's always going to be assumed to be set aside for American movies. So I haven't really talked that much in depth about it. I've only just watched it like in the last few hours. I just want to get my sort of thoughts across on it. I know I'm like a year too late. So thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing.